All right, I would like to now introduce Joy Ringer, who is going to lead the presentation tonight about hearing aids and assistive listening devices. So Joy, if you wouldn't mind kicking off the presentation and sharing a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, thanks, Carrie. I am the clinical coordinator for the diagnostic side of audiology at Lurie Children's Hospital, formerly known as Children's Memorial, and I've been a pediatric audiologist for almost 30 years. And I will say one of the most interesting but challenging areas is the hearing aid technology because it's ever-changing. It does change about every year and a half. Something new and exciting comes out. Of course, I'm like a hearing aid geek. I love that sort of thing. And so I luckily had Carrie send me some questions ahead of time because it's such a broad topic. I kind of wanted to narrow in the topic tonight, and hopefully I'll answer some questions for you. If not, as Carrie said, hopefully we'll have time at the end of the meeting to answer questions. I, of course, made way too many slides, so I'm going to try to just jump in and go through this as quickly as I can so we have some time for answers at the end of the presentation. So here we go. Speaking of technology, I'm just trying to whoops. There we go. Can you all see that okay? I hope, and hear me okay?
Yeah, this is Carrie. Everything's perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, so there were a lot of questions about pediatric ear molds and what type of material should be used. And typically we're going to use a soft material, and that's because infants and toddlers have very soft, pliable hearing aids, ears. And to have the hearing aids and ear molds stay in their ears, you want something that's going to give a little. You know what, I'm sorry, let me go back because I feel like if there's any kind of question someone wants to ask me, I am not in the correct, here we go, all right. Sorry, I'm having some technical problems of my own here with the chat. Anyway, so because kids' ears are flexible and they don't have as much cartilage as our adult ears, we want something soft so that as the ear molds, the kids are moving, the ear molds are moving somewhat in their ears, we want it to be comfortable. And so really we always use a soft material until the kids reach more adulthood. And even then I find that they really still like those soft ear molds. For children who will sometimes chew on their ear molds and bite through them, what we have done is use a harder material and then cover it with a softer material so they can't bite through the ear mold. And, you know, what I found in general is if a situation comes up that you're having an issue with the ear molds, they're not fitting properly, always talk to your audiologist. If they can't figure something out, I usually talk to the lab and just say, you know, here's a situation. I'm sure you've heard of other situations throughout the country. These labs are usually, there's only a very few handful of labs, and they can usually help us out to figure out what we can do to remedy the situation. And then also when you first get the ear molds, you might find them to be a little bit tacky or sticky when you first get them, and it makes it difficult to get the ear mold into the ear, especially if that ear canal is narrow or the portion that goes in the ear, the canal portion, is really long. And typically we want that to be long so that they really stay into the ears and don't come out. But it's too difficult to get them in. So what we recommend is to use some sort of lubricant on the ear mold. You can purchase from your audiologist Odo-Ease or Odo-Firm. Those are two products, but you can also use Vaseline. Any kind of lubricant. I've had some moms who've used vitamin E just for the first few weeks to help it get in your child's ear a little bit more easily. And then in about 2 to 3 weeks, just the oils from our skin will make that ear smooth, and it'll be easier to put it in the ear. The other thing that's really nice about the otoes or any kind of lubricant is that if you start getting feedback from the ear molds, from the hearing aids, because the ear molds need to be unique new ear molds, you can put that otoes on and it kind of suction cups it into the ear so that you can have a few more days that you can until it will keep the whistling from happening until you can get back to your audiologist. Okay, so there are basically 2 types of ear molds that we really use with kids. One is the full shell, which we usually use with infants and toddlers, and you can see a picture here on the side. It fills up the whole bowl part of the ear, or what's called the concha, and you just want that for better retention. You want to make sure that that ear mold stays in, again, because that ear is so soft and pliable. We also use it for moderately severe to profound hearing losses. You want all of the sound to stay in the ear and not leak out, and so you fill up that whole ear with the ear mold for those more profound hearing losses. When kids get to be a little bit older, maybe closer to around 4 or 5, depending on how big their ear is, we then go to a skeleton mold, and they're just lighter and a little bit easier to wear, easier to get in, and they're really more for mild to moderate hearing losses. Again, for hearing losses that are more moderately severe to profound, you might get sound leaking out of the ear mold and causing feedback or whistling, so you need to have that ear mold fully into the ear. But once the kids are older and become more firm, you can use that skeleton mold. So when you're looking for a pediatric hearing aid, there are certain things that you look for that are important to have as options when you're making that choice. First and foremost, that hearing aid needs to be appropriate for the degree of hearing loss and the age of the child. So if you have a mild to moderate hearing loss, you don't want to put a hearing aid on that's going to be too loud. And yet, going to number 2, you want a broad fitting range. You want to be able to adjust the hearing aid to give the kids more sound if they need it, or if there's a change in hearing where the hearing may decrease and you need to provide additional amplification. So you really want to find a hearing aid that maybe will fit anywhere from a mild to moderately severe hearing loss, so that you can make the appropriate changes along the way as you define their hearing a little bit better. And then you want FM compatibility, because we want all kids to use FMs as available in the classroom. Size is important, and the size of the hearing aids has continually gotten smaller over the years. We try to get the smallest size with as possible, depending upon the hearing loss. Durability, of course, because the kids are moving around and playing, and we don't want hearing aids to set them, we want them to be able to do everything any other kid does, which means playing sports and running around and doing whatever they want to do. We don't want hearing aids to hold them back, so we want them to be durable. Water resistancy is a newer part of the technology that's been available. And I just want to define what water resistant means versus waterproof. So water resistance means that the hearing aid can get wet and stay functional, and the manufacturers will tell you that you can submerge the hearing aids actually in water and let it sit there for 30 minutes and it will still work, which I don't recommend, but if something like that happens, you should be able to dry it out in your dry aid kit and have it still work. Waterproof means the hearing aid could actually be used to swim and do underwater sports. There are not really any waterproof hearing aids on the market. There is one that I know of that is made by a Japanese company called Rion. It's R-I-O-N, and it's an old conventional hearing aid. It's not even analog, so it's quite old technology. It goes up to fit someone for about a severe hearing loss, and I have some kids who have used them where they just want to be able to hear someone calling them or have some sort of input, but the sound quality is not very good. So I've had some kids who have said, you know, I'd just rather swim, deal with it, and not have to listen to kind of some bad input, auditory input. That's one place where the cochlear implant has made better progress in terms of waterproofing, so we don't quite have that yet, but a lot of hearing aids now are water resistant. Connectivity is huge, which we're going to talk about later. It's the ability to stream audio input into hearing aids, clarity of signal. It's for the ability for kids to be able to work with internet and hear music in the way that other kids can do it who don't have hearing loss, and it's been a wonderful thing. Color choices. Color choices have been wonderful for kids because there's so much in their life that they don't get to choose in terms of hearing loss. So, you know, their audiologist is telling them they have to wear their hearing aids, their parents are, and this is one way to gain control, is to be able to actually pick out the color of hearing aid that they want. So that's been fun, and make it fun. So there are several types of hearing aids, and oftentimes I have families come in and say, you know, when can my child wear this very small hearing aid and the ones that go into the ear canal? And so I thought I'd just go over the types of hearing aids and what's appropriate for the pediatric population. And I've just listed the types of hearing aids right here: the behind the ear, the receiver in the canal or RIC fitting, the completely in the canal, which is a CIC, in the canal, ITC, in the ear, ITE, and then there's another new, kind of an old bit of technology that's been revived called the CROS and BICROS hearing aids. So when you look at the criteria that I just went over, I just wanted to go over each of the hearing aids and how many of those, which of these hearing aids kind of gather most of those things that we're looking for when we're fitting pediatric hearing aids. And so the behind the ears, or BTE hearing aids, are appropriate for all ages and degree of hearing loss. They're very flexible. They have a large dynamic range, meaning a lot of times you can fit anywhere from a mild to moderately severe hearing loss. They're typically used with an ear mold or a slim tube, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Instead of having an ear hook, there's an actual slim tube that is not as noticeable as wearing an ear mold, and it goes inside the ear. These are FM compatible, they're water resistant, and they come in various sizes depending on the degree of hearing loss. So in general, the milder the hearing loss, the smaller you can go in the size of a hearing aid, and the more severe to profound hearing loss, the bigger the hearing aid will be. The behind the ear hearing aid is durable, and they do have connectivity. So the receiver in the canal, or RIC fit, is really a great, it's a great device that came out just a few years ago. You can see that they're very difficult to see that you even have them in their ears. They're very light. They are typically easy to care for, easy to use. The issue is you have to be closer to around 9 years of age or older, because you have to have a large enough ear canal to put the receiver in the ear. And so that's the other thing too, is actually inside the ear is the ability to receive sound and amplify it in the ear, which makes the sound seem more natural, more naturally the way we hear. it was typically designed for adults who had high-frequency hearing losses, so hearing loss in the high pitch that were more mild hearing losses. And because there's just a dome or a little plastic piece on the end of that receiver, you would hear the low frequencies very naturally, and it was just giving sound in the high frequencies. But then we started using it more for teenagers and even younger kids, and then they began to find that they were so comfortable, they would make custom ear molds to go, or custom molds, I should say, that fit in the ear for those people who had more moderately severe hearing losses. And so now there's quite a range and flexibility in who you can fit with the receiver in the ear, but the biggest issue is that size of the ear canal. Certain models are FM compatible, but you have to use a loop system, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And it's literally a loop you wear around your neck that creates a magnetic field and taps into a T-coil, a telephone coil that is in the hearing aid, and you can hear music, or you can even attach an FM receiver to the bottom of that loop system and be able to have some compatibility, but you do have to wear something around your neck. You cannot put the receiver of the FM on the bottom of the hearing aid. The receiver and the canals are usually very small, they're water resistant, and they have connectivity. The in-the-ear, they come in various different sizes, but usually they fill in that whole concha area or bowl area, and they are appropriate more for teenagers. It's a harder material, so it goes back to kind of what we were talking about with ear molds. You kind of want to have a nice firm ear to put it in. Some models are compatible with the FM, but you have to use a loop system. There's a smaller fitting range. They're only going to go so loud because you have to fit a lot of technology in a very small piece of equipment. So they will, you can only make them so high in amplification. There is water resistancy, but it requires more effort to clean them because it is in the ear and you have wax in the ear, so you have to make sure that everything is clean to make it work appropriately, which is sometimes difficult for teenagers who just kind of, you know, want to put in the hearing aid and not really think about cleaning it all the time. But so there is a little bit more care and maintenance involved. And then I won't spend very much time on these smaller devices, but they are appropriate for teenagers who have mild to moderate hearing loss. Most of them are not compatible with FM systems. Some of them are. They are water resistant, but again, hard to keep them clean, and they are definitely easier to lose. So 25 years ago, we used to dispense CROS hearing aids, and the technology was not very good at the time for us to do it well. But there's always this dilemma when you have normal hearing in one ear and you have a profound hearing loss, no hearing in the other ear. It's very difficult to localize sound. It's very difficult to hear in noise. You know, using a regular hearing aid in that ear is not really going to work well. They usually don't have very good ability to, they have poor word recognition in that ear that has a hearing loss, and so they can't really use a traditional hearing aid. So what they would do is, and what we're doing now, is you put a transmitter on the, that looks like a small hearing aid that goes behind the ear of the ear that has a hearing loss, and it transmits the sound over to another device that looks like a BTE hearing aid in the normal hearing ear. It transmits the sound from one side over to the better hearing ear. And this used to cause a lot of confusion for adults, and it caused a lot of confusion for kids. But a couple of manufacturers have come out with this new technology that's wireless, and it's what we have found is the kids have done really quite well. We're kind of pulling together a database of kind of tracking how some of these kids are doing, and we've been talking to people at Cincinnati Children's. They're doing the same, and we're finding that they are really gaining some benefit from using this technology. And even if you have, say, a profound or no hearing loss in one ear and even maybe a mild to moderate hearing loss in the other ear, we found that you can still amplify that mild to moderate hearing loss ear and still transmit the sound over to that mild to moderate hearing loss ear, and the kids gain benefit. So we're still trying to figure out which kids are doing best, and but it's very interesting, and we're seeing some success. Typically, you need to be around 8 or 9 or older because they have to wear kind of that Rick-style hearing aid, and you have to be able to fit it into their ear successfully. Also, you have to do really a lot of speech perception testing and noise, which is very taxing to do in that kind of situation where you don't have much hearing in one ear. And so the kids have to be able to successfully go through it. And they have to be able to tell us how they feel about hearing in the different listening situations, to be able to describe and let us know how they're doing. We typically only try this if the kids are having difficulties hearing classmates at school or hearing in social situations or at home and basically in listening situations where the FM is not really helping them in the classroom. So additional features are FM programs, which I'm sure you're aware of. Usually for younger children, the startup program for school-age children is going to be your FM program if they're using one in the classroom. Typically, children can change their own programs on their own around 10 years of age. That kind of varies with the child and what you feel like as parents, that you feel like they're able to do. I've actually had a child who was, I think she was 7 or 8 at the time, and she was able to do it. She was having difficulty hearing at lunch. And so we basically had her change her program into the automatic program when she was in the cafeteria. And then when she went back into the classroom, she was able to put the FM program back on and could tell when the FM was working and when it wasn't. And that leads into the automatic program. Hearing aids all have automatic programs that change depending on the listening environment you're in. So if you're in a quiet room, the hearing aid's going to go automatically into the calm environment. If you are walk into a noisy room where people are speaking, it's going to go into speech and noise. If you're listening to music, in some cases the program may have music, a music program. And it's really wonderful to basically help listening in all different situations. You don't have to think about it. The hearing aid does it all on its own. But for most kids, it's really important to have the FM program so that they are really hearing the teacher above the din of the noise in the classroom. And so we forego that automatic program until they're able to change it on their own. And then the volume control, you know, is always disabled until the kids are ready to use that on their own. And I have some kids that just like the automatic feature so well once they're older, they don't even want the volume control. So it's all depends on each person's individual needs. So I had a wonderful comment that Carrie had sent me from one of the parents talking about data logging, and it really made me think that I need to talk to our staff about how we talk to parents about data logging. And I wanted to explain a little bit about it and what it does. It basically analyzes the performance of the hearing aid over a recorded period of time. So it does tell us total hours of use, but it also tells us like how often the hearing aid is in FM mode, how often the hearing aid changes to different programs when in the automatic mode. And one parent had said, you know, gosh, I feel like, you know, I'm being spied upon, and, you know, feeling that pressure of, you know, I'm trying to keep the hearing aid in my child's ear, and now I have this audiologist telling me, well, they've only worn it, you know, 2 hours at a time, and that has to be incredibly frustrating, and that is not, you know, our intent for sure. And I think we need to be more cognizant of that and more aware that you don't need any more pressure than you already have trying to keep a hearing aid in with an infant or toddler. The thing that it's useful for us is just that, I mean, for example, I'll give you, I had a teenager who was not doing well in testing and was complaining that she can't hear in noise. And I checked on her data logging and to see how often she was in noise, and really came to find out that she was only wearing it 2 hours a day. So we just talked and said, you know, your brain has to get used to this technology, and I need to know how often you are in noise, and I really need you to wear it on a more consistent basis so that I can appropriately make changes to your hearing aid to help you hear in noise, but I need you to wear it. And it was kind of a great tool we were able to talk about. So, but certainly not there to be big brother at all. So I think that as audiologists, we need to be more sensitive to that when it comes to talking about data logging. So frequency lowering technology, that is something used for children who have high-frequency hearing losses or children who cannot hear the high-frequency sounds with their hearing aids. And I think you've probably all seen this audiogram that has the different sounds. For kids who have hearing loss in the very high frequencies, the hearing aids will not always be able to get them access to those high-frequency sounds. So there are a few companies who are manufacturers who compress that speech, those high-frequency speech sounds, and move them over to where hearing may be better so that they have better access to those high-frequency sounds. And that may be a reason why we choose one hearing aid over another, because the frequency lowering technology can be very useful for someone who has those very high frequency hearing losses. If a child can still not gain access to those high frequency sounds, then they may be a cochlear implant candidate. And then we would talk to the families about that. There are some limitations the hearing aids have that, you know, we just can't always get access to those sounds. There is one company that has used an LED feature that will visually tell you if the hearing aid is working properly or if the batteries need to be changed. So on the hearing aid, you'll see a light that comes on when it's working, and the light will flash if the batteries need to be changed. So I'm going to skip over this part about connectivity just so we can talk more about the different options for connectivity. So the thing that's really wonderful, if you look on to the right, most companies have something called they may call them different things, but for all intents and purposes, I'm going to call it a streamer. Basically, you take the streamer and you sync it to your phone, your TV. There has to be a device attached to the TV, but and you can wear this device around your neck, and the phone conversation is directly input through your hearing aid. Or you could be watching TV, and the sound goes directly into the hearing aids. And it's a really wonderful device for kids and adults to listen to music, and it's going through the settings of their hearing aids. So it's a nice, clear signal. The other great thing that you can do is you can put at the bottom of this streamer a receiver, an FM receiver, and you can use that for FM input. So I've had some older kids that wanted to have smaller hearing aids and use the receiver in the ear technology and or just a receiver in a canal, but they needed FM use. So they could take their streamer to school, put the FM receiver on the bottom, and still be able to hear their teacher who was using a transmitter. So it's really nice and versatile. And then, but you do have to have the streamer around your neck for it to work properly. Some manufacturers now have iPhone apps so that you can make discrete program changes and no one knows you have anything around your neck. So this is just what I'm showing you from Oticon. So instead of making the changes on the streamer, you can actually just take your phone out and turn the volume up or answer a phone call or put it in TV mode and no one really, and have that streamer under a sweater if you didn't want anyone to see it. You can also use an auxiliary cord to plug it into anything. So a cord goes into the bottom of that streamer and into a DVD player or any kind of game your child has, and all of that sound goes right into the hearing aid. This is really cool too. You can purchase a microphone that attaches to your shirt, and while you're using the streamer, your voice will stream directly into the hearing aids, which is wonderful to use if you're on an outing or if your child's in Sunday school or they're at some kind of program somewhere at a museum and someone's talking. You can give them that microphone and it'll stream right into their hearing aids. There's also direct audio input, although because the streamers are so great, I don't see this happening as much anymore, but you can take a Y cord and you just have to get a particular audio chute, which you can see on the right. It attaches to the bottom of the hearing aid, and you can use it just like, you know, you have your Y cord that you listen to your iPod. These would go into your iPod or MP3 player just like you would your earphones, but it would attach to the bottom of the hearing aids, and that's another way you can listen to music or listen to your games. So FM systems, they are, usually you use a transmitter, which would be an analog or digital transmitter, if you look at the lower right-hand corner that says Phonak Roger, that is a transmitter, and that's what the teacher would wear, or a parent, or whoever wants to speak to anyone can use it. That transmits sound to a receiver, which is attached to the bottom of the hearing aid. So there are several different kinds of receivers, universal or integrated. The one on the bottom lower left is the universal. It can be used with any hearing aid. And then you can see the one above, which is integrated, is actually attached to the hearing aid, and it opens up like the battery door opens up. And it's just, you never really take it off of the hearing aid. And then there's a loop system, which kind of looks like what we were talking about earlier with the streamer. You wear that loop around your neck, and that taps into the receivers. So the transmitter is used, the person speaking wears a transmitter microphone. The transmitter can also be handheld or placed in the middle of a table or middle of a group to pick up speech from all around. You've got traditional or dynamic FM transmitters. They use analog radio waves. So the transmitter sends the speech signal to the listener who wears the FM receivers on their hearing aid. And that's been our traditional FM that we've used for years and years. And most recently, they've come out with digital transmitters that use digital radio technology to send the speech signals. So FMs in general filter out the background noise near the transmitter microphone before it reaches the listener. So if there's a fan next to the teacher in the classroom or someone else is talking near her, when the teacher is talking, the FM microphone actually tries to filter that out before it reaches the child who's listening in the classroom. And of course, the whole reason behind using the FM is to improve speech recognition and noise. And these have always helped when you compare it to just using a hearing instrument alone. Now they've come out with digital technology, and what's wonderful about this is there's no radio transmission noise. So you've probably heard of times when you're using a radio frequency, there are times when kids have heard music or have heard static, or they may, if there's a cell tower nearby, it can cause interference. With digital, that doesn't happen. It also has a broader bandwidth or dynamic range, meaning the sound is just richer and kind of a full sound. And it's constantly looking for clean channels. So it's trying to find the best signal possible for the voice to reach or speech to reach the child's ears. So one manufacturer who has these digital transmitters is saying that it improves speech recognition by 35% over the analog or traditional FM. So a universal receiver, which is the one on the left, that can be used with any hearing aid regardless of the manufacturer. You just have to have the appropriate, there's what you've probably heard of, an audio shoe that goes on the bottom of a particular hearing aid, and that receiver attaches to the bottom of it. If you have an integrated receiver, it can only be used with one particular family of products. So typically a manufacturer will come out with a new product, and there'll be a whole series of hearing aids that they'll use for several years, and it'll be almost this, they'll all have pretty much the same kind of casing. And so that integrated receiver will fit for that hearing aid, but in 5 years from now, if you change to another hearing aid, it may not have the same case, and you may have to get a different receiver for that. So that's something to think about. A loop system can be used with the universal receiver as well. So the advantage of the universal receiver is that it can be used with any hearing aid purchased in the future. The disadvantage is the size, because you're adding another piece. You're adding two pieces, basically, the audio shoe to connect the receiver to the hearing aid and the receiver. So it makes the overall length of the hearing aid longer. With certain hearing aids, the audio shoe and receiver need to be removed to change the batteries. And basically, the more parts there are, the more opportunities for repair. The integrated receivers, of course, the size, you only are attaching the receiver, so there's no need for an audio shoe. It's usually a part of the battery door, so there are fewer parts to break, but you can only use it with that one family of hearing aids. So how do I keep those hearing aids on? One, it's such a difficult thing because, of course, when infants, if your child has been fit at, before that 6 months of age mark, they're pretty compliant. You are their world, and they're really not thinking about all the other stuff around them so much. But as soon as they figure out there's a hearing aid there, they're going to take it off and they're going to chew on it just like they can find anything else. So what we have found is the Hannah Anderson pilot cap has been really a nice option, and it's, of course, only an option until they figure out how to untie the hat and then take it off and take the hearing aids out. But they're nice because they cover the hearing aids, but they don't impede any sound input. And every season they come out with different colors and for both boys and girls. So I put the website on there. Also, you can use adhesive tape on the back side of the hearing aid. So the hearing aid that would go against the head, you would put some tape, and literally you can get this from your audiologist, but you can also use toupee tape, and you can get it at Sally's Beauty Supply, and you just put that tape on, and right behind your ear where there's no hair, you just put that, put the tape where there's no hair, and it doesn't mean that they'll never take off that hearing aid, but it can impede them a little bit. It doesn't hurt, but it's a little harder to get off. You do have to put on a new piece of tape every time they take it off so that it sticks better. And then I also, just as a handout, put in some guides that we have that we send out that I think Carrie's going to put on the website. Also, people had some questions about care and maintenance of the hearing aids, and we're going to have that on there as well. But honestly, I think I'm going to plug a support group that we have. Being a part of Guide by Your Side, Hands and Voices, talking to other parents, they are going to give you a wealth of knowledge on how to keep hearing aids in, how to deal with all the emotions and the joys, too. Share the joys of raising your child. They're going to be the ones you really want to talk to get some help. And we have a support group at Lurie Children's for kids with hearing loss and their families. Everybody is welcome. We meet 4 times a year during the school year, typically, on Saturdays from 1 to 3 p.m. at our Westchester facility. We usually have speakers come in for the adults and have games for the kids. We have doctoral students who come in and hang out with the kids. It's a great place to network. If you are interested, please, I have my colleague Tanya Gorelchak, her email address, if you want to be on the mailing list to see when our next meeting is. Please, we will put you on the mailing list and let you know. But I really think getting connected in that kind of a group and talking to their families is really a really great resource. And so that was a lot in a very short period of time. I don't know if anybody has any questions, and I'm hoping that, okay, I'm back to my original page. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. I can also share my email address if you have any questions. Feel free to email. I'm just going to send that out right now.
Hi, this is Lucy. I have a quick question. For the automatic program that you talked about on slide 11, I believe, typically around what age would a child start using that?
Let me go back. Well, I'm sorry, what was it? On page 11, it was?
For the automatic program for the hearing.
For the automatic program, there we go. Got it. Typically, I will even use it for younger kids until they go to school. So for example, in audiology, it used to be that they would say, never ever use the automatic program. You need to always have the hearing aid picking up sounds all around the kids. But now research is coming out that says the automatic programs are actually even good for toddlers because they're in a lot of noise. So I put the kids in automatic programs, and most of us do at Children's, even when they're toddlers. And then when they go in to use the FM through the school, we put them in the FM mode. So once they go to school, they're in the startup program for FM mode, and we usually don't go back to that automatic program until around 10 years of age when they can change it back on their own. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Anything else? I hope I answered some questions. And
Anybody else?
Hi, Joy. I'm sorry. This is Eliza. I was wondering, do you know what the highest powered hearing aid is that's out right now? Is it still the NAIDA, or is there something better now?
You know, we tend to use, I would say it's still the NAIDA, but we just talked to a representative from WIDEX, and there is a hearing aid we're interested in that is pretty powerful. The only thing is it only can be used with older kids because it's one of those RIC hearing aids, and it has a custom fit ear mold receiver. And we've talked to some adults, and they really like the sound quality, even a little bit better than the NAIDA is what they said. This is all just, you know, kind of subjective.
Mm-hmm.
But the only downfall is to that you can't attach an ear mold to it. But that is something we're exploring. Otherwise, the NAIDA is really probably one of the most powerful.
Okay. And what age are they usually looking at? Around 10 also?
You mean for the other one we were looking at from WIDEX?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It's got to be, their ear has to be bigger enough to put that in, so maybe closer to around, I would say around 10. And again, we just found the information on this, so we haven't used it yet. We've just talked to some adults about it.
Oh, no, that's fine. We have a couple of years till 10, so.
Yeah.
Second. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'd like to ask a question. This is Melinda. My question is, three of my children all have hearing aids, all different kinds. I do have my younger one who's 7 who wears an FM at school, and she wears the attachments like you discussed. It's been discussed recently that there are, you talked about the Roger and all these other devices that may help, and I was wondering, when my 3 children are around and it can be loud at home or what have you, I was told parents could use a device like you were talking about around your neck to where they're outside and having it around my neck or whatever device it was that they would hear me. Is that true? And what would be the best thing for a parent to use in our everyday life outside of their school environment?
You know, you can use the streamer like we talked about, and you could wear a microphone.
Right.
But the only thing, that microphone only goes about 50 feet.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where you would, you know, have to be somewhat nearby.
Okay.
But that is an option, and each company has their own device like that you can use. So that would probably be the most economical thing.
Right. And they automatically, you get that, it automatically hooks up to, you know, one of my children have a Phonak, the other 2 have a Oticon. So would that, a streamer or a microphone automatically connect to all those, or it has to be programmed to each of them?
You would have to have, for the phone, the child who has Phonak would have to have a Phonak device, and the other 2 would, yeah.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Eva. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So is there like a guideline or anything of like when you should upgrade the hearing aids and stuff? Like my kids have had theirs for, oh my gosh, I can't remember the last time. Like, is there a certain point in time where we should be looking at, you know, like the newer models or anything like that for the different technology?
You know, typically we say 5 years. And the reason is technology changes like every year and a half. A lot of times it's not like groundbreaking. I mean, when connectivity came out, that was really cool, and a lot of people wanted to upgrade to something that had connectivity. But for kids, you know, it's not like there's anything really earth-shattering that's happening, you know, that I would say you'd have to get even though the technology is changing every year and a half, you don't have to get something new. But the problem is once they're 5 years old, a lot of times it's so expensive to repair those hearing aids because the manufacturers aren't making those parts anymore because they've already moved on to newer products, that it's better to just put your money into a new set of hearing aids than to repair them. So 5 years. Yeah.
5. Thank you. Hi, this is Lisa. I have a question. Is there a hearing aid currently out or any news of one possibly coming out that can connect to Android devices by Bluetooth? If I understand right, I thought there was one that was released last spring that could connect to Apple products or iPads and things like that, iPhones. But is there one that they know of or in the works that could be coming out released for Android devices?
And are you talking about Bluetooth?
Yes, the hearing aid itself. I don't know exactly if I'm using the right terminology or not, how it connects, but where the hearing aid can connect to the phone digitally.
Any of those streamers will connect to any kind of phone. Doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. They may not have an app for it where you can, change volume and all of that using the app instead of the actual streamer. But all of those streamers work with any kind of phone. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't aware of that. So there's obviously more that I need to learn about those. I thought it was just one or the other. So good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, because if your phone is Bluetooth enabled, then what happens is you sync that streamer to that phone, and the two Bluetooth, it connects by Bluetooth, and you're good to go. You just may not have an app for the Android.
Okay, and the streamer unit, that's a separate unit that attaches to the hearing aid. Is that right? It's not built into the hearing aid. It's separate?
It's separate. It's the thing that you wear around your neck, the streamer is.
Okay. Okay, yes. Okay, I'm familiar with those.
Yeah. So that will work. And, you can also check. You still have to have a streamer, but there are Bluetooth adapters you can buy even on Amazon that you can attach to your phone that will make it so you wouldn't have to use like a cord to attach your phone to the streamer kind of thing if you wanted to listen to music. But the streamer should be enough. It should work with any phone.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, Joy, thank you so much for your time tonight and your expertise. Really appreciate that. For all of you that have been on the call, again, thank you for spending your Monday night with us. If you would like, again, the recording of this call, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And if you have any additional questions about the presentation, you can email Joy. It would be jringer, R-I-N-G-G-E-R, @marychildrens.org, or you can contact me directly. Thank you again for being on the call, and we'll catch you in January. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.